If Michigan upsets Ohio State tomorrow, we have chaos in the playoff. Absolute and utter chaos. Because then Penn State would likely get into the Big Ten championship game, and you might have the scenario where a 2-loss Ohio State team gets left out of the field. That would be wild. I don't think so either, but how far would they fall? Like if they lost by a lot, I think that would obviously make it. They're not going to lose by a lot. If they lose, it's going to be a close game. But the committee has made it very clear that the quality of the losses is paramount. I think if there's one thing the committee has been consistent with in this cycle, there hasn't been much they've been consistent with. But I do give them credit. They have stressed every week quality losses matter. That's why I think Bama's out. And as much as it pains me with a Bama plus, money ticket to make the playoff, the quality of Bama's losses are just not sufficient enough to get in the field, even if the chaos, factor ensues. If Ohio State loses as a 3-touchdown favorite, just like Bama kind of was last week, what was it, 14? And they lost by 5. That was a 5-touchdown loss against the spread. They lost by 21 as a 14-point favorite. If you lose by a touchdown as a 21-point favorite, and you're losing essentially by 4 touchdowns against the spread, I think you can make a case that loss deserves to knock them out of the field. Now, they are one of the top 12 teams, no doubt, but recency bias and the quality losses, like those factors matter. It would be, first of all, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it did, it would be absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam.
If Michigan beats Ohio State and still makes the playoff, what do you think Ryan Day would have to do to keep his job? You think he has to win the whole thing?
Oh, man.
Do you think it would have to just make it to the semis?
The inner workings. I don't know, frankly. And I have this conversation with my Penn State friends all the time because every time James Franklin loses a game, they want to fire him. Who are you replacing him? Like, that's always the problem I have with our instant gratification society that wants to fire every coach at the first sign of trouble. Now, to be fair, with Matt Eberflus, this has not been the first time that we've gone down this road. That one is like, as Cat Williams would say, habitual line stepper. I think with Ryan Day, this is a guy that's put out top 5 program after top 5 program. With James Franklin, top 10 program after top 10 program. But it's really hard to win in college football. Like, you see what these teams are up against every week. It's not like whoever they bring in is just going to magically, snap his fingers and, in the theme of Wicked these days, all my female friends are all talking about how great Wicked is, just wave their magic wand and just fix all the woes that your team has. Like, because you have to think about all of the behind the scenes recruits that have been committed to these coaches and which coaches go with Ryan Day. Like, you could gut the entire program on a very hasty decision. So I don't think anything would happen to Ryan Day if he lost the game to Michigan tomorrow, but I don't think he wants to find out, right? F around and find out, right? That's what they say.
No. That's why I think so many people are excited about the playoff is, in the past, obviously, it's been the 4 best teams, but like it really hasn't been like the 4 best teams. And now it feels like we could get some just unbelievable matchups in like the 8-9 game or the 7-10 game. But Ohio State, to me, they are the team to beat. I would agree.
Like, the irony is this year, in what has been a very parity-stricken year in college football, if you just gave me those top 4, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, I feel like we captured the best 4 teams in college football this year. But obviously, we have opened the field up. And I think Penn State and Notre Dame, because of the resumes and because of how well they've played, especially Notre Dame lately, I think Penn State's a little bit more of the outlet. Like, they're the survivor of the group. Like, and I could tell you this firsthand because I've been through a lot of these games with Penn State. In prior years, they lose the game at USC. They lose the game at Wisconsin after Drew Aller gets hurt. They lose the game at Minnesota when there's special teams flukiness going on and 2-point conversions are being, returned back the other way. But they haven't. They've been able to survive all of that chaos. I think you give them credit in a year full of teams laying eggs, i.e. Alabama on the road at Oklahoma, i.e. Georgia on the road at Ole Miss. Like teams just not showing their best stuff and not finding a way to win. Penn State, right? We say survive and advance in college basketball all the time. Penn State has figured out a way to survive and advance. I think that is worth something in this college football era. But at the end of the day, they are not an elite team this year. If you put them up against Georgia, if you put them up against Ohio State, we've already seen that game in Happy Valley. If you put them up against Oregon or Texas, like I think they're getting bullied in those games. But right now, the records are what they are. I agree with you, though. To me, like the path and the bracket matters a lot more than which team is ranked 7th or which team is ranked 10th. Like if the 10th ranked team has an easier path than the 9th ranked team, then that team is, in my opinion, going to have a better road to making it to the championship. But this bracket format has just changed the way we view the scope, because last year, all right, those 4 teams, you could make a case. Now there's a little bit of chaos that could still ensue.
Totally agree. And, it obviously reminds you of like March Madness, right? Because now we're kind of getting into a mini bracket. And it goes to your point, like, Jared, right now there are markets available where you can bet college basketball teams to make the Final Four. And it's like, I don't know why you would ever bet something like that this early, right? Because we always see that there are certain regions that are just so loaded compared to the others, right? Like last year in the tournament, it was UConn's region. They were the 1. Iowa State, the 2. Auburn was the 4. I mean, it was a brutal region, and they all had to deal with UConn. So it's kind of the same thing, right? I think there are certainly teams that I think there could be some value on. But like you, I have to wait to see what happens with the bracket. Because like I asked Bill, Jared, right? I think a lot of people feel like Ohio State, Oregon, those are your top 2 teams. Who's the 3rd best team? I think you ask like 4 or 5 different people, and you could get 4 or 5 different answers. Somebody might tell you Georgia. Somebody might tell you it's Notre Dame. Somebody might tell you it's Texas. I kind of think it's Notre Dame. I'm higher on this Irish team than I think other people are. I think that defense is legit, man. It is really good. Jeremiah Love's an awesome running back. And, it all comes down to Riley Leonard. He obviously has to make plays at quarterback, but just the way they're built, they can win some of these games against some of these good teams, and they can muck it up and play like these low-scoring, ugly games. So I'm higher on the Irish than I think others are, but it's going to be an awesome playoff just because, even though Oregon, I think, is the 2nd best team, I don't know if they're necessarily as good as maybe people perceive them to be at times.